So good afternoon, everybody. I'm Brian, that's Sanjay. I come from Visa, Sanjay is from Hypori, and we have that dubious distinction that happens at every conference of being the last presenters of the day. So luckily for Sanjay and I, we're only going to be up here for 19 minutes, and then everybody else can go and have all the free alcoholic beverages of their choice. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to get it started off. You guys are probably wondering, why is Visa up here? And I'm going to talk about the relationship between Visa and Hypori. And then Sanjay is going to take over and start going into the details about who Hypori is and what they do in their technology. So I come from a relatively new group at Visa called the Innovation and Strategic Partnerships Group. And our charter is to either invest in or engage with emerging technologies that we see in the industry that can help enable financial payments or the financial services industry overall. And at Visa, our vision is to be the best way to pay and be paid for everyone, everywhere. So it's a very simple vision, right? Even I can remember that. I didn't have to put up a slide to say that. But the everyone, everywhere part of that statement has been an important part of our growth strategy. I mean, especially to keep pace with growth companies here in the Silicon Valley. And we've achieved a lot of that growth through the digitization of payments and commerce. And a lot of that has to do, of course, with the internet and mobile devices. And, you know, I've been out here with all you watching all the presentations, and I've noticed a lot of the companies are focused on, one, simplifying financial payments. Two, information security is a big one. And third, which I think has been the hardest one for all of us, is enabling financial inclusion for the unbanked and the underbanked. You know, in my mind, that's a huge marketplace that we all need to tap into, and not so much for the money of it, but for enabling people to have better qualities of life, being able to manage their money electronically, safely, and easily, and not have to rely on cash for everything. So now, why are we up here with Hypori? So I talked about innovation and strategic partnerships. And when I first met with Hypori, there are two things that really stuck out for me in what they do. One is, as Sanjay will explain more about what they do, they're a virtualization company. And while we all know there's several virtualization companies out there, multi-billion-dollar revenue virtualization companies out there, the one thing that I really liked about Hypori is that they are a mobile-first solution for handheld devices. The second thing that really attracted to me to want to work with them more is they have a strong pedigree in working with highly secure environments or organizations. So working with the NSA and the Department of Defense has given them a lot of experience in what it means to be secure. And working on defense standards and banking standards, there's a lot of similarity there in what the companies or organizations are looking for. And as you look at their architecture, you can tell that it was built from the ground up with those two things in mind. Sanjay will talk about that more. So Visa and Hypori have been working together for the past 5 months. And what we've been doing is we've been building a proof of concept prototype. And what we set out to build, and we're 90% there, is we wanted to see whether, we didn't know if we could do this. Neither company knew if we could do this. So it was truly a prototype and an experimentation. Is could we deploy a point-of-sale system, for those of you who aren't working with merchants, that's, you know, at the store, the entry system for a sale. Can we virtualize a point-of-sale system on a mobile device such as an iPad or a Samsung Galaxy, and not only virtualize it, can we also integrate it with Bluetooth peripherals such as card readers, magstripe readers, barcode scanners, and receipt printers in a secure manner? And a couple of things, there's a lot of advantages to the system. The first advantage is when you're deploying a point-of-sale system out to a mobile device, I want to say you don't always know what's on that device. You don't know what the sales clerk is installed in there. We don't know if there's Angry Birds or Minecraft PE on there, or even malicious ware on there. So if we can keep any data from traveling from the barcode scanner, meaning credit card numbers or personal information, onto the device in the clear, and get it to a back-end server where that's the only place where it actually becomes a number or data, there's a big advantage to that. The other advantage to it is for our acquirer processors. So I don't know how many of you work with acquirer processors, but they're the guys who deploy point-of-sale systems out to thousands and tens of thousands of stores out there. And one of the challenges they have is when they want to create an update or they want to change the point-of-sale system software, it takes days, months, or weeks, depending on how big the acquirer processor is, to make that happen. The problem is they got to push code out over the network, and you never know if the device is on, whether the network is up, or if the build or the download actually succeeded. And so if we have all of the point-of-sale images in the data center running in a central place where we can instantly update all of them in their local operating system, so the Android operating system is running in the data center, at the point-of-sale system, they're only seeing a virtualized image of it, we see big advantages of that. But that's the kind of things that we're doing with innovation and strategic partnerships. You may have heard some of the investments we've recently made in the industry, unrelated to Hypori. But these are some of the experimentation and proof of concepts we're doing out there with partners such as Hypori. So I'm going to leave it to Sanjay to take you from here. And thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. All right. Thanks for, again, hanging out. It's the last session, I know. But good news is they saved the best for last, so you're in for quite a treat. My name is Sanjay. I'm a senior product manager at Hypori. And what we're going to do in the next little bit here is really understand the technology and the evolution of mobile in a lot of the spaces that you're probably most interested in. We're going to take a deep dive into the architecture, and we're going to spend a little bit of time looking a little bit more at that case study that Brian mentioned. So let's kind of start, with a little bit of a history lesson. No surprise, mobility first disrupted us, me and you, individually, up front. And after that, the first major place it went to was the enterprise. Back in the day, it was all about the BlackBerry, right? They had a secure mobile device, and you were able to get email, contacts, calendars. Awesome. Well, the world changed a little bit. And where we are today is we're kind of in the new generation of smartphones. And unfortunately, we are still stuck with a BlackBerry-like experience on the whole. And the technology that Hypori works on actually has a number of use cases, right? And so one piece is this evolution of the enterprise mobility story. And we'll kind of start there. And we'll look at how it can kind of continue on to bringing mobile disruption to all kinds of other markets, including financial services. The issue with the smartphone of today, as it relates to the enterprise, is you have to end up doing a lot of things on the physical device. So whether it's a bring your own device to work, whether it's a corporate-owned device, you have to spend a lot of time just managing that device itself. There's kind of data at risk that's at rest on the device. And by and far, the world hasn't really progressed beyond email, calendar, contacts. Hypori's virtual mobile infrastructure, or VMI as we call it, is a platform that enables you to go much further. It enables you to kind of get the security that you need and also deliver all the applications that you want to. Simply put, if there's one thing you're going to take away, it's that Hypori allows you to deliver any mobile application without modification, no app wrapping, no app containerization, nothing fancy, to any mobile endpoint as a secure service. Let me repeat that because that's huge. Hypori allows you to deliver any mobile application as a secure service to any mobile endpoint. And that's a pretty big idea. Because when we start thinking, it can mean a lot of things. What does it mean to be mobile first? So if I had to kind of prod you a little bit to think about the number of applications that run on a desktop that impact your business, whether it's internal processes, whether it's something external that you serve up to your users, what would the number be? Easily 100, order of hundreds, but probably more on the order of thousands of applications that have been written for the desktop. Now, if I asked you that same question, I said, hey, how many apps do you use that are business-related, that drive your business? You'd say, if we're small, if we're just getting into the whole mobility thing, maybe a handful. Maybe if we've been at this a little bit longer, a couple dozen, but nowhere near the 100 or 1,000 applications. And when we think mobile first, really what I want to provoke you with is if you could take any business process that you have, internal or external, any service, any offering, and if you could deliver that on a mobile platform where security wasn't a barrier, what would you do? And it doesn't require a lot of imagination, right? There's just tons of things out of the gate. First off, just banking itself would change pretty dramatically. People have done a lot of, bank of the future. right? Today you go to the bank, you talk to the teller, he's behind a counter, he's got a desktop. He's probably using virtual desktop technology to connect back to access a lot of the applications he needs to serve you. In the future, it's a much more collaborative experience where you have a touch-enabled mobile device that you might be working with your banker on, or it might even be remote. Similarly, today, we still do a lot of things with pen and paper across a lot of industries. Financial services is no stranger to pen and paper. And in the future, you can imagine, hey, everything from transactions approvals, contracts, happening over mobile devices securely. But it doesn't end there. Both within the organization and beyond the organization, there's a lot you can do. Internally, you can allow people to be a lot more productive while still meeting regulatory compliance and without being a big brother, right? You can have policies that are much friendlier to the end user. Externally, you can drive entirely new behaviors, build up entirely new business models, business processes, and deliver all that securely. Everything from, again, transaction approvals, online banking, asset management, all of this is possible. So how come everyone hasn't jumped on the mobile bandwagon? Why isn't everyone creating hundreds and thousands of business-related apps that are all mobile-enabled? Well, it's because they probably don't want to end up on the headlines of some big newspaper on how their solution got hacked. They don't want to be the Target or the Home Depot. They don't want to be the Starbucks app that got hacked. And so really, it's balancing the security, right? There's the ease of use and productivity that mobile brings us, but you don't want to jump on there and realize, oh man, we just lost $1 billion in fraud or in something else. So the question becomes, how do you enable mobility without sacrificing security? And that's where Hypori's virtual mobile infrastructure platform comes to play. Now, my understanding is this is a bit of a developer conference, and as a product manager, I love getting nerdy. So for the next little bit, we're going to roll up our sleeves a bit and start getting into the architecture. But worry not, I've got some nice interjections, some demos, some videos, so it won't get too brutal. Hypori's virtual mobile infrastructure has a couple of pieces to it. First and foremost, you've got the mobile endpoint. It's any iOS, Android device out there. Great. Then we have an app. This app is just like any other app that runs on these endpoints. And what it does is it connects you back to a virtual mobile device that is running in your data center or any cloud that you want it to run in. You can either be on-premise, hosted, however you'd like. Now, since we can get a little nitty-gritty, that virtual device is actually using KVM and QEMU. We use OpenStack under that in order to do all the kind of cloud compute and management. And it connects to all the systems that you need today. So all your user identity management systems, so Active Directory, LDAP, your existing enterprise storage, so iSCSI, NFS storage, and all your monitoring, so Splunk, whatever else you're using to monitor your infrastructure. What does this mean? Well, let's do a quick demo in case that technobabble was a little bit confusing. OK, so I've got my personal device. I've got my Facebook, all my personal apps on here. So how do I access my virtual mobile device? As I said, it's just an app. So I launch my ACE client app. And what you would do when deploying this is you'd white label this thing. I connect, and I authenticate against the server, and I'm taken to the kind of the home screen of my virtual mobile device. It's an Android-based device that's running in the cloud. So let's open up something like my Google Maps application. This is to illustrate, really, that everything on here, all the sensor data, is sent up to the virtual device. It shows us where we are. In fact, if I rotate my phone, it says, hey, cool, the guy rotated his phone. So all the sensor data is sent up, and what I'm seeing is basically no different than watching a Netflix or YouTube video. It's a screen scrape of the virtual device. Hang on to that thought a little bit, because one of the most exciting things about delivering applications through this virtual infrastructure means there's no data ever at rest on my physical device. Now, you guys are looking really good and very engaged, so let me snap a photo so I'll remember how this all went. Awesome, waving. Cool. So snapped a photo of you guys. Now, if I close and leave and go back to my physical device and I look at the camera roll, you know, I was taking pictures of the giveaways that we had at the booth. Nothing about that photo I just took from my virtual device was available on my physical device. I have complete separation. All right, so that's a little bit of the demo to explain what I meant by all that technobabble on the previous slide. Hypori's virtual mobile infrastructure really has the ability to address a lot of the mobility challenges. One of the biggest challenges, especially for financial services, is how do you keep the apps specifically, and of course the data secure. We make that very easy. We have an entirely separate operating system and a virtual device running in your data center. The data was never on the device. It was always in the data center. Next, there's a lot of regulations around mobility and a lot of policy. A lot of countries, especially regionalities, don't like it that a corporation can seize a user's mobile device for a subpoena. We have the ability to overcome that. It's just like teleworking with VDI, right? You can use your desktop computer at home. You might use Citrix or VMware, VPN in. Next, from the perspective of an app developer, one of the biggest challenges is keeping up with all the new devices that come out. There's a report out there that there's some 19,000 different variants of screen size, OS, form factor on Android alone. And when you look at developing and optimizing an experience across iOS, Android, and Windows, that starts to become a nightmare. Well, for us, you can deliver any app as a secure service, test, build against just that Android-based virtual device that we have. Our technology provides a hardware abstraction layer to all the different devices out there. And of course, when it comes to the Big Brother policies, no longer do you have someone saying, hey, you can't root your phone, you can't install this app, you can't do whatever. It creates a clean separation. You have a nasty malware-infested endpoint? Sure, no big deal, because when you authenticate, log in, and you're using your virtual device, that keyboard that you're using is the virtual device keyboard. So even if you have a nasty malware that's key logging everything on your physical device, no worries, that doesn't affect every interaction that you have on the virtual device. As far as your phone is concerned, you're watching a YouTube video. All right, let's get into it a little bit deeper. So there are a couple of pieces to this architecture that are important to understand. We have architected this from the ground up with security in mind. As Brian mentioned, we got our start with BYOD contracts. And today we're on NSA's list of commercial solutions for classified. We're the only way to deliver mobile apps to classified networks, and that says something. It's because we've thought about security all the way from the start. The client application that you saw that runs on my physical phone is capable of doing multi-factor auth, connects back up over TLS 1.2, and can even do further encryption by going over a VPN. That virtual device that I connected to, well, it's got SE Android policies so that daemons on there can't get elevated privileges and you get good app isolation. So even if you have a naughty app, it won't do anything bad to the overall system. It also has really good hardware support for additional crypto because we draw from the entropy of the network it lives on. And the server, well, it's also secured by SE Linux policies, and it integrates with all the enterprise monitoring tools. So you can say, hey, that's weird. Why is Bob logging in from Russia at 5 in the morning? Something's probably wrong. And you can revoke his auth back to the device. Now, let's think about it from the perspective of the application, because this is an important piece. As a developer and as an enterprise, at the end of the day, it's all about delivering an application, right? That's what enriches the experience. That's what differentiates you with a more engaging kind of experience with your end user or increases the productivity of your own workforce through enterprise mobility. Your app lives in the data center, secured by SE Android, which is then in this SE Linux compartment. And what that means is, as an app developer, I don't have to worry anymore that my app is going to be reverse engineered. Why? My app is living in the data center. It was never on the person's phone that I was delivering it to. Furthermore, all the really nice RESTful web APIs, all the database calls I make, none of that happens over the internet. All of that is from the data center back into my systems. And the only thing that's actually happening over the internet is a video stream of the virtual device to my actual physical phone. Additionally, I don't need to worry that, oh man, did I use the right TLS library? Did I use the right crypto? Our entire cryptographic boundary is going under common criteria certification. You can leverage all of the security of our platform to deliver your app. You don't have to bring your own auth, your own crypto, none of that. And additionally, you can actually release things kind of DevOps style. You have the ability to go in and say, let's pick a country, or let's pick a region, or let's pick some fraction of users and push a different variant of the app to them. Because now you're no longer limited by going through the Google Play or App Store or something else. And just like Brian mentioned, with things like point-of-sale systems, you push the app whenever you want to. If it's not working, you can go back and roll it back. Lastly, from a testing and compliance point of view, much easier to manage it when it's, again, all on your data center. So Brian spent a lot of time talking through the overall secure point of sale. This is what that architecture looks like. I'm a little bit tight on time, so I'm going to skip through talking through all of this. But again, you can imagine how the payment app is truly secure when it's on the data center and virtualized and delivered. I'll skip over kind of our delivering apps. And what I want to leave you with as a parting thought is what business process, whether it's your CRM tools, ERP for internal mobility, or what external business service or process would you mobilize and deliver if you weren't worried about security? Think about that and come talk to us. We're Hypori, and we do virtual mobile infrastructure. Thank you.